A pair of former White House press secretaries, Republican Ari Fleischer and Democrat Mike McCurry, both voicing support for ending live coverage of the daily White House TV news briefings. Meanwhile, Rush Limbaugh says the Trump administration is playing with the news media.
Have you ever had a cat, pet cat, and get one of these red laser pointers, and you point it at the floor, and the cat tries to catch it, and you point it up against the sofa, cat runs into the sofa, trying to put it up against the wall, cat runs into. I think that's what the Trump administration is doing with many in the media.
Alex Conant, a former communications director for Senator Marco Rubio, now a partner at Firehouse Strategies. Isaac Wright is a Democratic strategist and former executive director of the pro-Hillary Clinton super PAC. Correct the record. Good to see you both, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Okay, I'm going to read this joint tweet that went out from Fleischer and McCurry saying, we support no live TV coverage of White House briefing, embargo it and let it be used, but not as live TV. Better for the public, the White House, and the press. Isaac, what do you say?
I think this is a dangerous direction to go to. We need transparency, and the Trump administration has been probably the most secretive administration in our lifetimes. As we all know, they've cut off the public access to visitor logs to know who's coming to the White House complex and what officials they're coming to meet with. They have denied public disclosures to ethics watchdogs that have wanted to know which lobbyists and former lobbyists have come into work for the Trump White House and the Trump administration. And I think that's a very dangerous precedent to continue to set. If they're not scared of the truth, why hide in the shadows? Why not keep it live?
Alex, I mean, my recollection of the last administration is a lot of those meetings happened at Caribou Coffee across the street from the White House, so there was no log.
Exactly.
And I know that there used to be more briefings both on and off camera, but that changed under the Obama administration.
That's absolutely right. So I was a spokesman for George W. Bush during the during his second term during the Bush administration. And we had morning gaggles that were off camera and then the afternoon press briefings that were on camera. And that way we were able to lower the temperature between the press secretary and the reporters because we were able to answer a lot of their questions and then know what they were going to ask. So we had answers for them when we had it on camera. The Obama administration, for reasons I don't understand at all, canceled those morning gaggles, which just made those afternoon briefings so much more contentious, such a bigger deal because you didn't necessarily know what the press was going to be asking you and the press didn't know what the answers were going to be going into it. So look, I don't think you need to have two briefings every day. I don't think every briefing needs to be on camera. Certainly not every briefing needs to be on camera. But I do think that you need to have a very healthy dialogue between the press office and the media so that you can have information going two ways, and so that when the press secretary does brief the press on camera, he can effectively get the message out.
And it seems like the two of you agree on that. I mean, more transparency is better. I want to read a little bit from Michael Goodwin in the New York Post saying this. In rough biblical justice, media attempts to destroy the president are boomeranging and leaving their reputations in tatters. He accuses them of publishing fake news, and they respond with such blind hatred that they end up publishing fake news. That'll show them. I mean, Isaac, you know some of the things that have been going on this past week with respect to another network that has gotten caught up in some things that they've had to retract. And there have been some resignations and changes.
I think the news media right now is allowed itself in part to be distracted, which is a very smart move by the Trump administration given their agenda, by this war between Trump and the press. And right now we're talking about whether or not there should be two briefings or one a day, whether or not the public should have access to the Trump administration, which it should, instead of talking about the fact that there is a bill right now masquerading in the Senate as a health care bill that's really just a tax cut at the expense of 22 million Americans to drop them from health care and fund a tax cut for the wealthiest 1/10% of Americans. That the tax agenda right now is talking about over $200,000 in annual tax cuts for the wealthiest 1/10%. But working people, the middle class, we get $200 a year in tax cut. We're not talking about those issues. We're not talking about Russia collusion. We're talking about this.
We have done multiple segments on both healthcare and Russia on this show this morning. So I know we're talking about that. I don't know about other people. I can't speak for other networks. But the fact is, I mean, Alex, if people feel like this administration is closing off, not giving them information, not being available, I mean, that's a legitimate concern. But is that what's happening here?
That's not the case at all. every reporter in the White House will tell you they have amazing access to this White House. Let's face it, this West Wing leaks like a sieve. And so every reporter that's over there is very well sourced, has a very good idea of what's going on, often on an hour-by-hour basis. So it's not fair to say that this administration is not transparent. What I do think that this administration could do is a better job of focusing on the issues at hand. So why are they at war with the press this week? Because their base loves it. But guess what? They really need to be pushing health care reform this week. The polls over the last 48 hours for the Senate health care bill are abysmal. 20% of Americans support it. President Trump needs to be spending every waking moment pushing the health care bill if he wants it to pass. That needs to be his focus, not picking fights with CNN and other media networks.
Yes, very
They're the
leaky.
least transparent in recent history. Why are they making all these documents? Why are they making all these documents no longer accessible to the public?
We're going to have to leave it there, but we'll agree transparency is a good thing. Leaks, really on the upswing. All right, Alex,
Thanks,
Isaac,
Shannon.
good to see you both.
All right, John Scott's coming up next and happening now. And John, good day to you. What are you cooking up today?
Hey,
Good
Bill,
morning.
the Republican senators in that town where you are looking for Plan B as their health care reform efforts hit a roadblock.